In this video, I'm going to show you how I went from this raw, unedited photo to this final image on the left. I wanted to experiment with some sort of fairly heavy processing and editing techniques and go for a really moody, almost gothic look with the final image. This is the raw, unedited photo. I'm not going to change the crop. This is straight out of camera, and I think this is a good start. So I'm going to create a copy. And then the first thing I'm going to do is change to this profile and then set the exposure. Bring that back up. Next, I'm going to bring some color back in after changing the profile. So we'll create a new copy. And then using these calibration controls, I'm just going to go through them one by one. I don't know why I start from the bottom, but I always do. And just bring a bit of color back in. That's the start for color. I'm going to create a mask of the Jackdaw so that I can process it separately from the background. It's already got that sort of faded black, lifted black look, which I really like. And so using the tone curves on the mask, I can make sure that I keep that throughout the editing process. So we'll just create a copy. And very simply, I'm going to use the selector subject. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's really good. So that's our starting point with the mask. So now I'm going to make basic tone curve adjustments. I'm just going to lift the blacks ever so slightly to make sure they stay in that kind of lifted, faded look. And then I'm just going to add slight contrast with the tone curve. Nothing too extreme, something like that. I'm going to start adding some definition to the feathers and details on the Jackdaw. And I'm going to do that by using the clarity and texture. Let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. Select the mask. And then just adjust each one. Start with the clarity because that has the biggest effect. And then the texture. And then let's zoom back out and see the effect of that. Yeah, that's quite a good difference. I like that. Now I'm going to work on the eye and get this a bit brighter. So we'll create a new copy. Let's zoom right in so we know what we're looking at. Call this mask Jackdaw. And then we'll create a new mask and use the brush. Might just bring that feather down a bit. Let's see what we're doing. Don't want auto mask. And I just want to cover the brightest parts of the eye because that's really what we're going to bring up. And the first step is going to be to use the bring the noise down in the eye. That really helps smooth it out. Don't want to go too far. Something like that. And then I think I'm going to use the tone curve to increase the contrast. Where are we? There we go. Get that nice and bright so that it really pops and stands out. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's good. And a before and after. Yeah, happy with that. So let's start thinking about the background. I know that I want to have quite a heavy vignette effect. I'm not going to use the vignette control. I'm going to create a mask, and then that's going to give me a bit more fine control over how it looks and the positioning. So I'm going to create a new mask, radial gradient. I think I'm going to need to invert that. And then I'm going to use to start with, I'm going to use the tone curves to control the vignette. Let's start with something like that, and then I'm going to go back and adjust this. I want to make sure we're not affecting the Jackdaw. Something like that. Let's pull this down a bit more. I might actually bring the exposure down now as well. I really do want to make that quite a strong effect. I want to soften this background a bit more as well. It's out of focus already, but I want to make it appear even more out of focus. So I'm just going to duplicate this mask and invert it. And then I think just using probably just the clarity, if I bring that down, you can see that's making it even more blurry. And I'm going to bring the overall brightness of that down, just using the tone curve control to really help the Jackdaw stand out against that background. What I'm going to do now is I want to add quite an extreme layer of grain over the whole image. So I'm actually going to, let's zoom in and have a look. I'm actually going to remove some of the noise in the image. It's not a very noisy photo, but let's remove a bit of that, smooth that out overall, to make sure we're not losing too much detail. I think you can see there's a bit of color noise in here, so I might get rid of that. Smooth that out a bit. And then I'm going to use these grain controls here. I'm just going to play around with them, and I am going to go quite extreme. So, I mean, let's just see what happens if we turn things all the way up. It's going to look terrible. So we obviously don't want to do that. And I think from using this previously, I know that the more you increase the size, the more detail you lose. It just gets blurry and almost out of focus. So I'm going to keep that low, and let's bring the amount up quite high and the roughness. Maybe reduce the size. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's the effect I want. So there's a very minor couple of points to fix. This and this are slightly distracting. So I'm just going to use the healing tool. Let's zoom in first. And yeah, let's just use the spot healing tool. Just to paint over that. And this one. That's much better. Now I want to bring up the overall brightness of the image. I think it's a little bit darker than I'd like. I'm just going to use the tone curve on the whole photo. I'm not going to create a mask or anything like that. So just create a new copy, and then it's going to bring the overall brightness up. I will keep these shadows quite dark still. Something like that. So now let's take a look at the before and after.